Being one of PlayStation's few surviving legacy franchises, there have been a whole lot of games about the God of War. Ever since 2005, Sony Santa Monica's Kratos has been mowing down gods in countless hack-and-slash adventures. So which of the God of War's adventures is the best, and how do they compare? Let's find out. This PS3 prequel was a good signifier that the original formula for God of War had run its course. A forgettable journey telling a story that felt needless, multiplayer that nobody asked for, paired with a combat system that focused on dodging, made for a bit of a head-scratcher. On paper, mixing up the gameplay this many entries deep into a franchise is admirable, but God of War Ascension only led to frustration. Props if you've ever heard of this one. God of War Betrayal released on mobile shortly after God of War 2, bridging the original game and its sequel to expand Kratos' story. Although if you skip this 2D side-scroller, you're not missing much. While Ascension may be a better game, in the context of its original release, Betrayal was impressive for what it was, where Ascension, by all means, was just a big letdown. Taking the series to Sony's popular portable, Chains of Olympus was a showpiece for the PSP, proving that the series could work on Sony's answer to the Nintendo DS. Compared to the competition, having a competent God of War experience on the go was remarkable. It's not without its limitations though. An over-reliance on block puzzles, short time to complete, and a story that really does feel like a side quest until its finale keep this from ranking higher on the list. The game that started it all, Kratos' original adventure is full of hack-and-slash fun and series-defining decisions from the jump. While its combat controls were intuitive for the time, this great introduction to Kratos relies a bit too much on some spotty platforming and puzzle solving. Even with its fantastic sequels making its flaws more noticeable, the original God of War is still one of the strongest debuts in PlayStation's history. The series' second and final outing on the PSP, a more confident sequel taking lessons from Chains of Olympus, sees Kratos endure a more personal story from his history in God of War Ghosts of Sparta. Getting creative and using the series' famous set pieces to reflect what Kratos is experiencing as a character in the context of the story makes them more impactful than others, albeit not quite as memorable. After burning out with Ascension, the series took a much-needed break to figure out where to go next. Acting as a continuation and a soft reboot, God of War sees an older Kratos and his son Atreus trading the Greek pantheon for Odin and the Norse gods. A shift to PlayStation's popular third-person perspective allows for a more intimate presentation to match the story that reflects on the legacy of the franchise and Kratos as a character. The finale of Kratos' original storyline, God of War 3 cranks everything to 11, from its jaw-dropping set pieces, boss fights, and unfortunately the one-note Kratos screams.
There will be only chaos.
Despite that, the journey of Kratos comes to a satisfying, albeit temporary, conclusion with God of War 3, and the pure spectacle of a studio firing on all cylinders to close out this story is hard to match. Building heavily off the 2018 reimagining of the series, God of War Ragnarök doesn't do anything too wildly different from its predecessor, but that's not a bad thing. Taking what already worked, evolving combat, and the scope of the game, Ragnarök was able to focus on adapting more Norse myth, which makes for a packed adventure. What's really impressive about this title is its excellent story. Grief, anger, regret, all on display in this character-driven epic. Sequels can often either feel like a cheap cash grab or the full realization of something that almost had it. God of War 2 is an instance of the latter, taking the foundation of a strong debut but expanding the world and characters, fleshing out the lore, plus a more fluid combat system and control scheme make for an incredible sophomore entry in the franchise. Considering its pacing, puzzles, story, combat, characters, and platforming, God of War 2 is the best of the classic series and still stands up to the modern reboots. And that is every God of War game ranked from worst to best. If you like this list, stay tuned to Game Rant for others like it and more from the world of gaming.